Hey guys, I got another cool project to show, and this is not a finished build, and this one is focused on Doryani's prototype and Doryani's fist, which uses Doryani's touch skill, which is super massive AoE, and I almost have no AoE on the passive skill tree, so the AoE you don't need to worry about that. That's one thing I guess you don't need to worry about. So the interesting thing about the Doryani's prototype body armor, and I think this is the highest damage body armor in the game, but that doesn't mean that it's the best body armor by no means, because it has its own issues. And in this video I want to talk mainly about this body armor and I guess how you scale it, and briefly talk about the build that I'm doing. But the build still needs to, well, I still need to change a lot of items. So this body armor also I thought I knew how armor works. I have been playing for over 7 years. I thought I knew how armor works, but I guess I don't know anymore, and I feel like you need some kind of degree in armor science to understand it now. But basically how this body armor works now: armor also applies to lightning damage taken from hits. Lightning resistance does not affect lightning damage taken, and the nearby enemies have lightning resistance equal to yours. So basically you want to lower your lightning resistance as much as possible, and I'm gonna talk about what items you can use and what ways you can, what works and what doesn't to lowering your resistances. So now when you have this, you lower your lightning res, and now you need a lot of armor to defend, to mitigate that lightning resistance, and this is from hits. The funny thing is, lightning degen is not gonna be mitigated, and when you step on some lightning degen, your resistances is gonna be treated as 0, because it says lightning resistance does not affect your lightning damage taken. So it doesn't matter how much lightning resistance you're gonna have, it's always gonna treat as 0 when using this body armor, and the armor is not gonna affect it. The physical damage reduction is also not gonna affect it. So the only well, there are a couple ways to mitigate that, but I guess the best thing is to just not step on lightning degen. There aren't that many things that do lightning degen, so I don't think that this is gonna be a big issue. However, Cirrus, I believe Cirrus, well, for example, Shaper's laser is degen, and the Cirrus spinny blade thing is also partially lightning damage degen. If you use this body armor, it has obviously big advantages, but also massive drawbacks, and it's, I guess, risk versus reward. And this body armor may not be great for like endgame bosses like Cirrus fight, because it's just so difficult to do it, I guess. At least from what I had, if you step on the spinny things, you almost get one-shotted. I tried against the Ash, you know, the Ash boss, the lighting one, the breach one. It throws the ball which zaps you and does damage. It killed me in 3 shots, and I did have, I believe, close to 10k armor back then. I can have more right now. And another thing, I am using imbalanced guard. I am not entirely sure how certain things interact with this body armor like this. In Wiki it says elemental resistances are not counted as damage reduction, so normally this would not affect it. However, you're not actually using resistances to mitigate it, and you're using armor to mitigate your lightning damage taken from this, so it would seem like this should help against lightning hits. I mean, would it cap the mitigation to 50%? Because normally you can cap the mitigation by 90%. So would it cap it by 50? I'm actually not sure. And like I said, I did Ash breach a couple times with and without this, and I couldn't really tell the difference. I would still get killed in 3 shots, so I don't know about that. So now, how you can get negative resistance? When you complete Act 10, you immediately get minus 60 lightning resistance, and I have minus 125 right now. You can get way more than that, but I don't think that it's necessarily a good idea to get like massive negative, like minus 500. So the way to get negative resistance. When you complete Act 10 you get minus 60. Thread of Hope. Each Thread of Hope can roll up to minus 20 all res. So I got two, one large and one medium here. May change it later. So that's another minus 40, so that's already minus 100. And then Immortal Flesh, minus 25. So that's how I get minus 125 very easily. Another way you can do that is by self-cursing with the gloves, you know, the chain, shackle, whatever. But you would also need a massive amount of curse effectiveness, and probably would have to go with the occultist. But I mean, self-cursing is always kind of annoying, but that probably would be the best way to get insane amount of negative resistances. So next things, there are two things that do not work. This helmet, it says reduces lightning resistance, does not work. And you may think, oh, it's because it's reduced, so the less would work. Tempered by War does not work. It has 50% less lightning resistance, does not work. You're not gonna get less negative, you're gonna get, it's gonna change into more positive basically. Both the helmet and the Tempered by War is gonna basically increase your resistances rather than reducing them even more into negative. So that's out of the window. Those are the basic ideas how to get negative resistance. Now it's really hard to get enough armor, and I think I need like 10 times the armor that I have. I'm even using, actually I even have determination. With determination I believe I have around 14,000. Yeah, with determination I have around 14,000 armor. That's without let's say molten shell and without granite, so that's like 30k with those. I will be getting quite a lot more. The shield I will be changing all the other things, but I believe I need like 10 times that at least 5 times that to mitigate lightning hits, like properly mitigate and not just a bit, because the way armor works, actually no one knows how armor works. It's a mystery. People say that we know, but no one really knows. We just pretend that we know. You basically need a lot more armor. A general rule is basically, from what I remember, to mitigate 90% of the damage, you need, wait 1 second, yeah, to prevent 90% of the damage, fucking plane.
5 minutes later.
Yeah, so to prevent 90% of the damage, you need your armor to be 90 times the damage. So if you want to prevent 1000 damage, you need 90,000 armor. And 1000 damage is not a big damage number in a single hit. So you need a ton of armor, like insane amount of armor. Another thing how you can mitigate that, by the way, physical damage reduction percentage, like from let's say from endurance charges, which you don't want on this build, would not mitigate the lightning damage, because it has to be armor, flat armor, and not like percentage mitigation. So another way you can do that is actually, there is a talisman, and the talisman says that 50% of lightning damage taken from hits as fire or cold. And I'm trying to get that one, but it's pretty hard to get a decent one, because I also need to, on all of my items, basically on all of my items that can have resistance, they all need to have fire and cold resistance. And I even have, I believe, three jewels to cap my fire and cold res, since I'm lowering all of my resistances. So actually self-cursing may be even better in certain cases, because you wouldn't need to worry about as much as lowering your other resistances and capping them. So that talisman could help you mitigate and kind of bypass the requirement of massive armor, at least partially. So I want to test that and see how it goes. Obviously you need a lot of flat armor everywhere you can. So the good thing is that the body armor itself gives decent amount of armor, but like I said, you need like insane amount of armor So I'm gonna be getting new shield, I'm gonna be getting new amulet, new ring, maybe change the storm secret. So the reason I'm using storm secret right now is because I really like how Herald of Thunder works. I basically shock, and I do have decent amount of shock chance. Once I shock, I was trying to link Herald of Thunder with course and hit. Unfortunately, I keep failing to get the right sockets, get the right colors on this body armor. But it would be nice to have like Herald of Thunder with course and hit, and linked with increased critical strike chance, so it would proc elemental overload. It's not very reliable, and I may do something different later, maybe some like Orb of Storm, which I started to hate now. But it's really a nice way of proccing elemental overload and coursing at the same time. And also it does a bit of damage. But I mean, you need a corrupted ring to remove the lightning resistance. And I may replace this ring with something else, like resistances would be much easier to cap on a normal ring. I could also get a bit of damage, life, armor, whatever shenanigans, so I may change that. There are also, like, I'm currently trying to squeeze in another aura like Wrath. I'm either using the termination of Wrath, and I want both. So I need a shield with reduced mana reservation. Socketed gems have reduced mana reservation, and then I need either helmet enchantment, or I need an amulet with the termination has reduced mana reservation. I actually could get away without using the helmet enchantment or the amulet, but then I wouldn't be able to really use blood sand because I wouldn't have enough mana. So the other thing, I guess I could briefly talk about Doryani's Fist. And Doryani's Fist gives you Doryani's Touch. By the way, they don't need to be linked, as always, if you don't know. Doryani's Touch, I believe, has 600 added damage multiplier. Every single one damage you're gonna have added to the attacks is gonna be multiplied by 6. The way you want to scale this build, you obviously want to get as much flat as possible. So that's why I'm using added lighting, and then fortified to be a bit tankier, elemental damage of attacks, and Fist of Water. And this is what basically gives me massive AoE. So I pop this, I have this, and then boom, the AoE is pretty massive. So Fist of Water gives massive AoE, Seismic Ray gives more AoE, Blood and Sand gives more AoE, in sense, and this node to get a 10% additional increased AoE, and then this node to get another 15% in sand stance, and that's it. That's all my AoE nodes. Look at that AoE, it's so epic. The hits cannot be evaded, so you don't need to worry about accuracy, and you don't need to take a resolute technique, and you can still use elemental overload. The issue is that triggering elemental overload is a bit annoying, and well, unless you don't mind using like Orb of Storm or something like that. I don't know if it's required to explain too much about Doryani's Fist. It's just a slam skill. It is a slam skill. It's a slam skill, obviously, because otherwise you couldn't use Fist of War. So you can actually link it with General's Cry and have Mirages slam the thing. But I'm not doing that. Oh, that looks so epic when it does like with 2 hands. Damn, that looks so epic. I love this build. So another thing that I'm using is Red Blade Banner, and I'm not gonna be using this later, but I will have it on the shield swap. And the reason is that this is a very slow hitting build, so it would take like million years to get to maximum rage stacks. Even having this one, this is also a bit annoying to have. So this, what infinite power means is that when you see your war cries, each war cry has like scaling with the power. It basically means that you get the maximum benefits from your war cries that they can give. The cool thing about that is when you use this one, war cries grant 10 rage per 5 power, but if you got infinite power, you immediately get maximum rage. So when I enter the map, I will shield swap, war cry once, boom, 50 rage, swap, shield back, and then continue mapping. I won't need to keep swapping, maybe for the boss, or like to maintain. Like if it drops below 25, I can quickly get back to 50 to maintain my rage. On the rest of my items, I just have to be sure that I don't have any lightning resistance, and then just get fire and cold. The passive skill tree, Berserker. The reason why Berserker is speed. Pretty much that's it. Speed and this node. Leech is also nice, but I didn't really feel like I need Leech for some reason. That's weird. I did try to get this one to see, because this one would still grant me 20 to 30 physical damage to attacks if you have dealt a critical strike recently. Any critical strike. Not just attacks. So I would still get that one. It just didn't feel like worth it. This one still gives more smoothness because of attack speed. And I think I did the right thing picking Berserker. I was thinking about Jugger, but Jugger would be a bit too slow and wouldn't feel good. So I'm getting life armor, a bit of dexterity, a bit of intelligence. Gonna need 155 for Herald of Thunder, and then just getting life armor, and then looking for places to put on Thread of Hope. Figured I'm gonna take this one here. By the way, leveling was a bit painful because I took no damage scaling from the tree until I got this one. It was painful. You may want to grab this early on as well. I was leveling with Smite, by the way. Smite and Static Strike. Static Strike, by the way, feels pretty good, but most of the time it was Smite. And you may want to grab this early on if you're playing and leveling with Smite. And the rest, as you can see, the cluster jewels. So the cluster jewels supercharged because this is non-crit build. Crit would be nearly impossible on this variation. Supercharge, and then this. I wanted this to gain 10% of maximum life as extra armor. That's a flat armor. So the more life you get, the more flat armor you get. At 6k armor, you're gonna be getting 1200 armor. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The next video I'm gonna make an updated version of this, but like I said, I need a lot of changes to this build. I need to change the amulet, maybe even 2 rings, the jewels, maybe the helmet again, the shield definitely. So yeah, it still needs to do a lot of changes. Anyway, that's gonna be it for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.